already in their seats. I don't need to ask you to get in your seats. I'm going to look to the IT individual for who's on WebEx.
You have Jordan Mahallahan, Matt Sterling, and Samantha Potter.
Thank you. Amanda, are you in the building? Amanda? Samantha, I'm sorry.
I will be in 5 minutes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I will be in 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, if you're here, you can vote. If not, you cannot. First up on the agenda is approval of the minutes for February 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 9th, and 10th. Do I have a motion? I have a motion from the ranking member to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Ayes do have it. Motion is approved. I'm going to skip through. Is there bill introductions? Seeing no bill introductions, bill introductions is closed. Folks, if I could ask you to go into your files and look up HB 2415. That is the bill we heard last week concerning the state fire marshal. Does anyone want the reviser to do an overview? Epley, are you asking for the reviser? Were you not here Friday? Okay. Matt, give us a quick overview.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee. House Bill 2415 would require an investigation whenever the death of a person occurred because of a fire. The investigation would be initiated by the chief of the organized fire department or the chief law enforcement officer regarding the circumstances of the death. The bill would also expand law enforcement powers of the fire marshal to allow the authority to make arrests, or I'm sorry, under current law, they have the authority to make arrests, carry firearms, conduct searches and seizures. The bill would authorize the state fire marshal to make arrests and searches and seizures while investigating violations of the laws that were enforced or administered by the fire marshal. Lastly, the bill would clarify that any clothing or equipment intended to protect firefighters that was sold or purchased would be required to comply with the standards of the National Fire Protection Association that was adopted by the fire marshal through rules and regs.
Thank you. Questions of the reviser? Seeing none. As to House Bill 2415, what is the pleasure of the committee? Representative Arnberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out House Bill 2415 favorably for passage.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Representative Epley. Discussion. Chair has an amendment. You hand the amendment out. Any? This amendment is the amendment that was agreed upon by the fire marshals and law enforcement. Ed Klump. They talked about it at the hearing. This is an agreed upon amendment. Matt, while they're handing it out, would you explain the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going through some of the changes here, you can see there's a change. The changes to new section 1 would clarify that the investigators and who are certified law enforcement officers would be authorized to make arrests, conduct searches and seizures, and generally enforce all criminal laws of the state as those violations are encountered by the employees during the performance of their duties. It would also clarify in subsection B, this was, I believe, talked about during the testimony, that the investigation of those fire deaths would be a joint investigation initiated by the chief of the organized fire department and the chief law enforcement officer. It clarifies that if there was no local fire department, the joint investigation be initiated by the chief law enforcement officer and the state fire marshal.
Thank you. Questions of the reviser as it concerns the amendment? Seeing none, is there a second for the amendment? Representative Arnberger. There's a second. Further discussion on the amendment? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the amendment to 2415, say aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. The bill has been amended. Back on the bill. Further discussion on the bill. Seeing none. Representative Arnberger, if you'll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out House Bill 2415 favorably as amended.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. I have a second with Representative Epley. All in favor of passing out House Bill 2415 as amended, say aye. Those opposed, no. In opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Bill passes out as amended. Okay. Folks, I would ask for you to go into your file and look up House Concurrent Resolution 5013. It's referred to as Keep 9. Matt, this has been a while. Would you give us an overview of this House Concurrent Resolution?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Keep 9 concurrent resolution, the legislature would be urging Congress to propose the Keep 9 amendment to the United States Constitution. The amendment states, the Supreme Court of the United States shall be composed of 9 justices. And then if it was adopted, it would be sent out to Kansas congressional delegation, the Speaker and Majority Leader in U.S. Congress, and then each leader of the legislative chamber in the other 49 states.
Thank you. Questions of the reviser? Seeing none. As to what is the pleasure of the committee as it has to do with HCR 5013? Representative Arnberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out House Concurrent Resolution 5013 favorably for passage.
Thank you. Discussion? Representative Heiberger.
Chair. I like the basic idea behind this amendment. I mean, I don't like court packing. I think we heard about some historical examples I wasn't familiar with, but even the Roosevelt attempt in 1937, I think was a bad public policy idea. And so I'd really hate to see that happen here in our lifetime. But the problem is the court has already been packed, and in response to that, I have an amendment.
Thank you. Jeannie, if you'd hand out his amendment. While she's handing it out, would you like to explain, or do you wish the reviser to explain? I can do it. Thank you.
I'll do it. Thank you.
Oh, I'll do the second after the amendment's been handed out. After there's an explanation, I'll look for a second.
Yeah, as you know, we've had a rather checkered history of Supreme Court appointments recently. I think we all remember when Justice Scalia died in 2016, 9 months before the presidential election, leaders of the Senate decided that was far too close to a presidential election to consider a presidential nominee. And then when, President Obama's nomination of Merrick Garland, who's now our Attorney General, was not taken up, and later Neil Gorsuch was nominated and approved. And then this year, when Justice Ginsburg died 46 days before the election, that apparently was not too close, and Justice Barrett was nominated and appointed and confirmed 8 days before the election. So I think at least one of those appointments is constitutionally suspect. You know, in my opinion, I think the Barrett nomination, while it was rushed, did not violate any constitutional requirements, but I think the Senate grossly failed in its constitutional duty by failing to consider the Garland nomination. So what the amendment does, there's some whereases that go through that, and it says that before the resolved part, it says provided that either Justice Neil Gorsuch or Justice Amy Coney Barrett or both resign from their positions on the United States Supreme Court. And so if one of those two people were to resign, having been appointed appropriately, I would be happy to support the value all 9 of them amendment.
Thank you. The amendment has been explained. Is there a second for the amendment? I'm sorry? Well, I've already got one. Yeah. Epley. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. As a second on the amendment, it's Representative Woodard. Correct, Representative? What do you want to give Representative Miller? Thank you. I'll recognize you as the second. Okay. As to discussion on the amendment, I just have a question. You know, in the original amendment, we name no Supreme Court justices, and whether or not it's you know, and I'm not sure that
Their names are all in the whereas or in the proviso clause. They would not be part of the law.
I'm talking in the original amendment. It's just a policy or a recommendation, and you're adding in well, at least 3 or 4 names of, and I'm sure Secretary or the Attorney General of the United States probably feels he's fortunate that he never got on the Supreme Court. He has more power now as the Attorney General than he would have as one voting member of the Supreme Court. I find that Representative Smith should have a question. Representative Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative who submitted the amendment, as I recall, there was quite a bit, as little as I like to watch the news, there was quite a bit of controversy surrounding this idea, in that there was a rule that seemed to be followed in one but not the other. Is that what you're referring to?
Are you talking about what they call the Biden rule?
Biden or McConnell, depending on which one they used.
Not particularly. I'm just saying that either one of these or both. If I'm saying that if the Garland nomination was too close to the presidential election to be considered, then the Barrett nomination was far too close, and so I mean I think either. And I think you can make an argument that the Garland nomination wasn't too close, but the Barrett nomination was, but I'm not going to go there. I believe that the United States Senate violated its constitutional duty by not approving the nomination of Merrick Garland, and so I'm not going to, I think it's kind of, I'm not sure what the right word is, for us to pass an amendment asking the court not to be packed when I feel it has been packed already. I still don't like, I mean, I still don't want to have to be doing this. I mean, I still think court packing is a bad idea, but I'm not going to support this resolution without, well, under the current circumstances.
Thank you. Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, in modern history, are you aware of any other nominations that occurred in an election year?
I am not a student of Supreme Court nominations. I don't know of one. No.
Thank you, Representative. Well, the nomination of Supreme Court Justice Ginsburg was made on June 22nd, 1993, and confirmed August 10th. She took her oath August 10th, 1993, before an election. So I think that I understand where you're going with this and trying to target specific justices, and however Justice Ginsburg is no longer around. But if we're going to start targeting people based on when they were confirmed, then maybe even though Justice Ginsburg is no longer around, we need to add her name to this as well. It's just one of those deals that I think both parties have done it, and it's just unfortunately where we're at. And I think you're right. Court packing's bad. It shouldn't be done. However, it's been both parties that have done it in recent history. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, Representative.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think there's anything constitutionally suspect about the Barrett nomination. and nor, in given the facts that you just set forth, or the Ginsburg nomination. I think the constitutional problem is with the Garland nomination, where the Senate violated its constitutional duty to approve a valid appointment.
Thank you. Representative Miller.
Just a clarification, the dates I was hearing cited just a moment ago were 1993 to make a point about election year appointments, but was 1993 an election year?
We're like speaking about a federal election, it's an off year.
Right. Maybe we could get clarification from
You may ask.
Representative Carpenter.
He wishes to give it to you.
I was trying to follow along, but your point escaped me. I apologize.
I apologize, Representative. You are correct. I was off by a year.
Thank you. My only comment is, the original resolution had to do with the Supreme Court by changing the number of justices that are on the Supreme Court, and it's an indication they want to keep 9. I understand, and I don't recall, but I've read in history about the attempts by Roosevelt. My part is John Marshall, when he was the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, one of the most famous ones was that I always thought it was interesting because once a year they all got on their horses or their carriages and went out to different jurisdictions in different states to hear cases. I don't think today you could get a Supreme Court justice on a horse or a carriage to let them go to Georgia to hear cases. But times have changed. But with that said, is there further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative, you may close on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I close and move my amendment.
You've heard the, strike that, okay, yeah. He closes on his amendment. All in favor of the Heiberger amendment, say aye. Those opposed, no. No. Opinion of the chairs, the noes have it. The noes do have it. The amendment fails. Back on the resolution, Representative Heiberger.
Chair, I have another amendment that would change the name of the amendment in question to the closing the barn door after the horse is out amendment, but I'm not going to run it.
Okay, you're not going to run it? Okay, all right. Further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. Back on the original resolution, seeing further discussion, seeing none, Representative?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I close and move my amendment, or move my motion.
You asked if for the amendment to be passed out, or the resolution to be passed out.
Yes, House Bill, or House Concurrent Resolution 5013 passes out favorably for passage.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Resolution passes out. Committee, I would ask you, and I think this is an appropriate time, I'm going to ask you to look at House Concurrent Resolution 5008. It has to do with daylight savings time, since we've all had to get up a little early. This resolution had, I think, from both sides of the aisle. You'll have a hearing on it. I'll just go through it real fast. It was sponsored by Representative Francis, Alcala, Armberger, Barker, Berquist, Carlson, Curtis, Ellis, Epley, Gardner, Island, Hoffman, Heisel, Jennings, Johnson, and the other Johnson, Stephen Johnson and T. Johnson, Long, Orr, Owens, Hatton, Ralph, Samsel, Smith, Tarwater, Wassinger, and Williams. As to House Concurrent Resolution 5008, what is the pleasure of the committee? Representative Armberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out House Concurrent Resolution 5008 favorably for passage.
Thank you. Second, Representative Epley. Discussion. Yes, Representative Hoyt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we're all feeling tired this morning and the time changes can be rough and people don't like it, but I have great concerns that people will really hate the winter months when it's dark in the mornings till 8 or 8:30 for a few months at a time, and it'll make school drop-offs rough, and I think we'll end up feeling that is more exhausting than the time change, or at least to do permanent daylight saving time. So I'm not going to be supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on the resolution. This is only recommending to our congressional staff and senatorial staff that they should maybe take some action. But with that, Representative Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the carrier of the bill and his intention of trying to create a permanent time for all of us. Like you said, it's a non-binding resolution. I'm a little bit more of a standard time guy, and I think we could assert our sovereignty as a state and pursue that route. So that's personally where I'm at, but I do appreciate the desire to make the time permanent. However, it does rely upon our congressional delegation and our federal elected representatives to do their jobs, which they don't seem to be doing much of anything in terms of passing a budget or anything like that. So I have little confidence that they will address this issue.
I share those comments. I'm more of a sunrise, sunset person. Sun comes up, I get up, and the sun goes down, whether it's 8:30 or 9:30 or 10, and then I try to go to bed, but that's just me. So I'm institutionalized, I think is the term that we use. Further discussion? Seeing none. Representative?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out House Concurrent Resolution 5008 favorably for passage.
You heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, no. The chair is uncertain. All in favor of passing out the resolution, raise your right hand. Six. All opposed. That settles that. The resolution fails. A couple of announcements. We're going to be changing the agenda today. As all of us know, we're getting down to the last really 2 weeks. So things are going to move quickly or they will move very slowly. It depends upon the Senate. They are working some of our bills, and they tell me that by Wednesday or Thursday, we will be receiving bills from the Senate. I'll believe it when I see it. It would surprise me that they would not go on pro forma the next 3 days, but that's just my opinion. But we will be changing the agenda this week. There are certain things that we need to get done before, hopefully by the end of the week, so that we'll be on the floor. And we're on the floor today. We're going to be on the floor tomorrow. And my understanding, we'll probably be on the floor Wednesday and Thursday to debate bills. And we've got to get some bills out from this committee to do that. So look for changes in the agenda today. I'll be speaking with the speaker here in a little bit about some changes that we're looking at doing. So with that, I would, because we're going to be working bills every day. If you're not going to be here when I'm working bills, let me know the day before. It's important. If not me, you let the vice chair know. And on the other side, I'm sure that the ranking member would like to know if some of his party are not going to be here so he can get someone to replace you. So it is going to be important that you let us know that. with that, anything else for the good of the committee? I'll give you just some guidance. What I think we're going to do, we're going to be busy this week. Next week, I'm hopeful to take up the medical marijuana bill. I think that will take a couple of days. It may take as many as 3. So I don't have a lot of days left, and I'm trying to get all this done. So you're going to have to work with me, or be a little nimble here, and flexible. So I don't want to have a spatial meeting in the afternoon or anything like that. I think the way I've got it programmed, we will be able to do everything during our normal 9 to 10:30 period, but we will stop, as we did last week on Friday at 10, I think it was 10:28, because the Senate, we're not going to take their time, and they come in here at 10:30. Anything else for the good of the committee? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the hearings we had scheduled for later this week, you will be postponing them till we have time next week?
Yeah, I'll be talking with you about
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
that. Anything else for the good of the committee? Representative Heiberger?
You have a guess as to what bills we might be working tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I will put it out when I put the agenda out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And the agenda will be out by 1 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay. I've just got to have a couple of conversations before. Okay. Anything else for the good of the committee? I just want to look at the, how do you have the weekly agenda? You don't? Okay, it's on my phone. But I'll get the revised agenda out noon, 1 o'clock. All right.